We have some potential ads, drops, and sell high candidates next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Tuesday, June 29th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and let's start with the Brewers. Keston Hiura and Willy Adames. Hiura now has 3 home runs in his last 4 games, did not strike out a single time on Monday. Willy Adames hit a 3-run home run as well and has been very good since being traded to the Milwaukee Brewers. Scott, what do you think of both Keston Hiura and Willy Adames as potential ads?
I think they're both interesting. Keston Hiura obviously has an enormous ceiling. That's why we've been so high on him entering the past 2 seasons. Was a struggle for him to get to this point. Optioned back to AAA twice, but between those 2 stints, hit over 400 at AAA. I think the OPS was over 1,200. It definitely produced there, but specifically in the most recent stint, got the strikeout rate down to about 25% in his 50 or so plate appearances. Which, obviously not a huge sample, but a big improvement with the strikeouts there. And he talked about how he was training himself to make better swing decisions. What's most interesting about the home runs since returning the 3 and 4 games is that I know the last 2 were on high fastballs, and that was a pitch that was killing him earlier. So it does seem like he's making better swing decisions as far as that goes. Definitely exciting to see. Definitely worth a flyer again is Keston Hiura. I don't think Willy Adames has anywhere near that upside, but it's hard to say for sure because he spent most of his career with the Rays, of course, Tropicana Field. His numbers there are terrible. His stats, career stats on the road, and this includes some of his time with the Brewers, but obviously most of the time with the Rays, 296 batting average and an 867 OPS away from Tropicana Field in his career, which makes him out to be a very different player than we know him to be. So much smaller park the Brewers play in. We'll see. We'll see how it goes for Adames, but if you need shortstop help, he's not a bad pickup.
Yeah, Willy Adames has mentioned the batter's eye in Tropicana as something that affected his vision while he was playing there. Both Willy Adames and Keston Hiura are rostered in less than 50% of CBS leagues. I think Hiura has higher upside. I think Willy Adames probably has a higher floor, so it depends what you're looking for there. The Dropometer, let's fire it up. 1 to 10. 1, you want to hold on to this guy. 10, you could drop this player. Rhys Hoskins went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts on Monday. The batting average is down to 225. Scott, Dropometer for Hoskins.
I'll put it at about a 3.5. I think we know him to be a very streaky player. He was slumping early on in May too, and then really salvaged his numbers in the second half of that month. I don't think it's going to happen in June, but he could come roaring back in June with big power production. Not as much of a walker as in past years, so that's kind of concerning, but I still think in most leagues you want to hold on to Hoskins.
How about Gleyber Torres, who went 0 for 4 with 2 more strikeouts as well on Monday, and his last 110 games since the start of last season, he's batting .240 with 6 home runs. I have no idea what's going on with Gleyber Torres. Scott, what do you think?
I don't either, but it's been going on a long time now, like you mentioned, on over 110 games. And that was after his first 2 years in the majors. He showed plenty of power. He hit 62 home runs between his first and second seasons in the majors, and really all the underlying numbers are comparable to those first 2 seasons in terms of how hard he hits the ball, the launch angle, the strikeout rate. It wouldn't surprise me if he had a Jose Ramirez-like resurgence, maybe similar to what Keston Hiura is doing, where a player looks broken for a long period of time and then suddenly fixed. But in shallower leagues, I don't think you have to stick it out with Torres just because of his name. So I'd put him at a 6 on the Dropometer.
Let's wrap up with a few potential sell high candidates, Scott. Jared Walsh went 2 for 4 with an RBI double on Monday. But since May 1st, he's batting just .260 with a 32% strikeout rate. And the other one's Trevor Story, who's been coming around his last 15 games. He's batting .286 with 4 homers and 6 steals. But the possibility of Trevor Story being moved before the trade deadline outside of Coors Field in Colorado is something that is looming. So Jared Walsh and Trevor Story as sell-high candidates. What do you think?
I think they both fit. Jared Walsh's season-long numbers still look very good, but the key to his breakout last September and this April, I thought, was a greatly reduced strikeout rate, and it's really been climbing the past couple months. It's in very scary territory in June. So while his value's still high, I don't think it's a bad idea to shop him. You don't want to undersell him, of course, but sure, you could shop him. Trevor Story, I'm writing a column right now, drafting for the rest of the season, and I still have him as a second round pick. I do think it's likely he does get traded out of Colorado, and wherever he goes, it'll be a worse environment for him than that, hitting wise. So you got to be aware of that, but you got to be careful not to undersell him too, because obviously he's underachieved to this point in the season. All of us think he's going to bounce back if he stays in Colorado. You want an elite player in return. I'm not confident you'll get that, but that's what you need to hold out for.
For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. If you enjoyed the pod, please leave a 5-star review on Apple. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.